Right now is an absolutely fantastic time to start a business. There are so many people that are unemployed right now. Last time I looked, I think the number was at least over 15 million. There's a lot of people furloughed, they're without work, and that means for a lot of people, they're without discretionary income or any income at all to pay their bills. And so, one of the things I've always done in my life is keep a variety of side hustles or projects going so that if that ever happens to me, I can sort of turn the knob on that and refocus my efforts on those side hustles and ramp up my income there. And over the years, I've also built up other streams of income, and I've talked about that before. There's two main factors that make now a really, really good time to start a business. One is obviously necessity. I just talked about that. There are people who just completely lost their incomes. But the other is time. Through this self-isolation period, and I realize that we're starting to come out of that now, but through this self-isolation period, you've got most likely more time than you've ever had, or more time than you've had lately, because you're at home. Even if you're just saving the commute to drive to work or the commute to drive your kids to school or something like that, you're saving some time. And so being at home, having that extra time on hand, and if you have the necessity to make some income, makes right now an absolutely perfect time to start a business. But a lot of people, when they go to start a business, they're just not sure how to go about it, what type of service or product to offer. So today I'm going to share with you some ideas about starting a business and doing it with little to no money at all. Now, when I started my first side hustle, it was a service-based business. I took my expertise out in the financial industry and I turned that into a business and was attracting clients and doing work for them, staying up late at night when I could have been gaming or doing something else I enjoyed, making extra money and socking it away, paying off debts, doing smart stuff with that money. A service-based business is a great way to get started because it requires very little overhead. So taking some expertise that you have and turning that into a business is probably one of the fastest and cheapest ways to get started in a business. Now, when you're thinking about offering a service-based business, there's a couple questions I want you to think about and ask yourself to help determine what it is you're going to start. So, one of the questions I always think about is, what do people call me for? What's a topic that people call me for or call me for advice on? So for me, one of the most common things I get questions about is definitely financial related, but is around how to fund a business, whether it's through debt, equity, loans, investors. That's one of the most common questions I get. Matter of fact, that was one of the impetus between starting my company, Southbound Media. So ask yourself, what's a common question that I get? What do people call me about? Maybe they call you about setting up technology. Maybe they call you about graphic design. Maybe they call you about whatever it is. When you get those questions, think about how common they are and sort of put two and two together and think, well, this is something people obviously see me as an expert on. Otherwise, they shouldn't be asking for my advice. So that's a really good question to get started with to help you figure out what type of service to offer in the first place. Another great question is asking yourself, what's a service I can offer that comes easily to me? You know, for me, graphic design or something like that doesn't come easy to me. I've taught myself some light aspects of that, mostly the web design side of it, but graphic design and drawing things is just not something I'm talented at. And so to try and offer that type of service would take me a lot longer to get ramped up, a lot longer to get started, and it's just not going to be an easier path for me. So once you figure out what people call you for, make sure that does match with something that is easy, comes somewhat easy to you. Certainly, part of doing this during this time of self-isolation is learning new skills. But if it takes you too long to figure out how to offer a service for a client and you're sort of muddying your way through it, then you're going to want to think about what's something that just comes easy to me and that I can answer those questions quite easily. Okay. Then after you ask yourself those questions, ask yourself, am I sure there's a demand for what I do? You know, if it comes easy to you that know how to plug in microphones. There's probably not a lot of demand for that because other people should be able to figure out something that simple. One of the ways to gauge demand is to go to some of the freelance sites like Upwork or TopTal or Freelancer or Guru. There's a ton of them. And go on there and see what type of job postings people are listing and asking for help with. So for me, I'm top rated on Upwork. I've been there for years, worked hard to get that distinction. You could go on there and see that the common projects that people are listing and asking for help with. Actually, one of those happens to be how to fund a business. So I got lucky years ago having that expertise and going into that space using Upwork to find clients. So that's a great way to gauge what the demand is. Of course, you could also do some SEO work. You could take a look at Google ads or Google keyword search trends and see what people are looking for. You could even just Google for articles on what are the most in-demand jobs and talents and skills. But again, please make sure that's something you're not going to have to take a long time figuring out, especially if you need the income now. Then lastly, I would ask yourself, how are you going to market your services? Those same freelance sites that I've just mentioned are great resources. It takes a little bit of time to build a reputation there. Again, I was at it for quite a few years before I became what's called top rated. Now people just invite me to jobs, but they still are great places to go. And at least you know that people are looking for someone to do work for them. Another great thing to market your services, I've always talked to you about this, the question of who do you know, tapping into your network and seeing if those people can help you get in front of people who have a pain point that you can solve. But just remember, particularly through these freelance sites, yes, it takes a little time to build your reputation up, but it's worth it. They're basically become your marketing arm. And one of the things I do want to caution you on when you're thinking about providing your services and promoting them, please don't get caught in the trap that you're just going to post it on social media and people are going to come flooding your direction looking for work. So it's a little bit about how to get started with no money. I think a service-based business is probably the easiest way to do that. Can you do a product-based business if you're trying to ramp up quickly and with as little money as possible? You can. I mean, you could do the whole Amazon drop ship model where you're not taking on the inventory yourself, but I think that's going to take quite a bit longer to get going. And then you fall into the trap with something like that of, if you don't have experience with it, having to study a lot and figuring out how to set things up, how to set up the postings on Amazon, how to figure out which products to represent and sell, how to promote them. All those things, if you don't have experience with it, are going to take you quite a bit of time. So product-based businesses, at least if you're in a hurry and you need some income sooner rather than later, are going to take you, in most instances, a little bit longer than a service-based business. With a product-based business, you may have to have your own separate website, and certainly you could do that for a service-based business. But products, especially if you're going to manufacture or design your own product to sell, could take you a little while. Now, if you're just selling some homemade jewelry, I don't think that'll take too long. But then again, you're still dealing with setting up an Etsy shop or something like that. So in my opinion, the easiest way, the most direct path to some immediate income if you need it, or starting a business with as little to no money as possible, is going to be tapping into your current experience and skills and offering those as a service to those people out there. Now, one sort of negative about a service-based business is you are oftentimes trading your time for money. So I just want to call that out, that you're aware of that. With a product-based business, you can set things up, and for the most part, over time, you don't have to put in as much of your free time to kind of keep that rolling. Once you get it established, you just make tweaks along the way. Whereas with a service-based business, you're usually billing by project or by hour. And so, yeah, that can, it's not a duplicatable process. But today I was more focused on how to get it spun up fast and with as little money as possible. And in my opinion, a service-based business is going to be the route. If you have any questions, please put them down below in the comments. And as always, be sure to subscribe and be notified when I post more videos. I hope that helps you today. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.